All right, good day, Lighthouse. So we've set up this interview with Garth Austin just in the wake of River's passing, because as a church, and those of us that knew him closely, we're really just trying to come to terms with a sense of loss and a sense of perspective through this whole thing. And one of the things that I was thinking of and praying through was just where we can hear stories that encourage us, stories of those who have been through tragedy and loss. And Garth's name came to my mind because I know something of his history and something of his story where he has lost a number of people in his life that have been very close to him, some of them through very tragic circumstances. And Garth was on Happening this last weekend and just spoke to him and thought it would be great for us to interview and just for Garth to share something of lessons he learned and something of ways in which he coped through the loss of loved ones that were close to him. So, Garth, thank you so much just for doing this interview.
Pleasure.
And maybe just to start in a general sense, I know that you have had a number of losses of people close to you. In a very general way, what have you found to be the most helpful? What has got you to this place where you can look back now, you can talk about what those friends meant to you, and so on, and reflect on just the help that you receive from the Lord and so on.
Yeah, good question, Trevor. And I mean, I think for me, I've got to take a step backwards from that as well first and say that partly what helped me get through it is also partly what I was really angry with in the beginning. And that is that life goes on. And that is so hard, understanding and recognizing that life goes on, because how can life go on when you've lost somebody that's so important to you? So just as a starting point, I think it's important to know that we can get a bit angry about stuff. And I think I had a couple of great people walking alongside me, and that made a big difference. But being able to understand that you could be angry, but you could still love God and see God through everything that was happening, and life did go on. And it was good that life went on, but it took a while to get to that space. So
yeah, I guess it does. And you mentioned anger, and I think that's a big emotion. You know, we know it's one of the stages of grief and so on. How did you process that? You know, because we get angry. Some of us get angry with God. Some of us direct our anger to the circumstances of the person's passing, etc. How did you process that anger? Because obviously it came up many times.
Very much so. Yeah, I think, and you alluded to it on Monday night when we met originally to pray for Riv, and unfortunately to more pray for Sarah and for his passing. And I think the thing was, what really I connected with anger when people were like, oh, it was his time, God picked another flower, like you were saying. And I think the big thing for me was recognizing that I don't serve a God like that.
Yeah.
So I'd get really angry with God, and then I just felt this voice often saying to me that that's not the God that you serve. The God that I serve is not somebody who goes, and picks that person because, oh, it's his time.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a bit of an argument on Monday with somebody because we were standing and he was going, but it was his time. And I said, great, you really believe in that? Well, let's close our eyes and both walk across Main Road Warmer quickly, and we'll see if it's, and he didn't want to do it. And I think just understanding that the emotion of anger is okay, but to direct it in the right ways.
That's right.
So I was angry at losing the people. I was angry that I'm never going to get to talk to them again. I was angry that when I got into some silly stages, like, why did you do this, God? I was angry that other people wouldn't benefit from interactions with these people because they were great people. And honestly, I often just heard that voice of God going, I'm in pain as well at the moment. I'm with you in on earth. I understand your pain, but I'm not that kind of a God. And when somebody is up with in heaven, he's rejoicing. It's us that are left behind that are angry. And I think it's so connecting with that anger, but directing it in the right way was important in getting over this.
That's right, and I think anger is the most natural emotion when we're frustrated with something, when there's a loss and we go, no, this is not fair, this is not right. And I think this is an overriding emotion that many of us have been confronted with in River's passing. No, it's not right, and a young life, not fair, and taken away so quickly, so suddenly, so violently. But like you say, the anger's fine and it's normal, but you want to process it in healthy ways. And even though it might be directed all over the show at the start, ultimately, if we give it to God, He processes that. Tell me, what was the role of friends? You mentioned it earlier as well. People that came around you, people that supported you. Because I think sometimes, especially for us guys, it's like, oh, we'll get over it.
100%.
We'll just knuckle down. We'll be strong and so on. What for you, in terms of people around you, was so helpful that helped you get through the tragedy and the loss?
I think it's twofold. Often friends are going through similar emotions, but at different times.
Right.
So understanding that we've all got some pain and talking. We, as a friendship group, when my best mate died almost 10 years ago now, and he went out paddling and he just never came home. And he, like Riv, was an incredible guy with a massive friendship circle. But my best mate was there, and we as a friendship group and community groups at that stage, we just decided that we're not going to hide our feelings, but we're going to talk about him, and we're going to think about him, and we're going to remember him without memorializing him and putting him on a stand, putting a trophy on the stand. It was genuine, raw emotion, and it wasn't just packing it away and saying we're done with this now. We dealt. We need to move on, and there was huge support because we understood each other's emotions, we understood each other's feelings, and we were there for each other. And that was critical because there were times where I didn't even want to go to church, as an example. Yeah, sure. Because he was the pastor. Right. And I'd get angry just going to church, and then I'd get in and 4 other people said, well, we also didn't want to come, but I knew you'd be here. Sure. And we'd leave and we'd be filled, and it would be incredible. And we'd recognize that also that's the kind of thing he would have wanted for us to do. Yeah. Not to mourn all the time, but to celebrate. As hard as that may be, because sitting here as human beings, we're feeling the loss. Yeah. We're feeling this massive thing that's been pulled out of our life, and there's nothing, it's a vacuum, there's nothing that's been able to replace that yet. So how do you cope? And just understanding that we were all going through different areas, but also still being faithful to each other and being faithful to God in that time as well. Right. And boy, I got angry with God, but I dealt with it, as I said before, again in a way where my father is not like that, and helping each other to understand that also became it's an imperative where just being together as friends and not forgetting the times that you had, not forgetting the things that you would have done. I've said to Michelle a couple of times this week already. I mean, Riv, I ripped Michelle off, those of you that know me, and Riv often used to come to me and say, hey man, that's not good. I'm like, in the beginning, I'm like, who are you? And you know what, the legacy that he's left is I feel that more often than I ever did when he was here now. Yeah. But I'm allowing that to happen, as sore as it makes me, because when I go a bit too far sometimes, I can feel him going, hey bud, tone it down here. Yeah. That's powerful. And just allowing that to live on. We don't have to forget. Yeah. And we won't. And but I think what you're saying as well, in the importance of friendship at a time like this, we're all in the same boat. Yeah. We're all grieving the loss of one that was dear to us. But on a day when I might feel strong, you might be not so strong. Absolutely. And I can be there for you, but the roles will be reversed maybe the next day. Absolutely. So the imperative in what you're saying is that we do need each other. And part of that is because we're sharing a common experience. It's not a comfortable experience, but it is a common experience for Absolutely. Us. And we kind of need each other. We can't do this on our own. We know that instinctively about the body of Christ. But at a time like this, we really can't do it on our own. Yeah. And Garth, you talked about process and that right at the beginning. How did you find it? If you think of the tragedy, and you allude to Barry, and I think many of us remember 10 years ago now, Pastor Barry from St. John's. And just the city was rocked. I mean, a guy went out paddling, and got caught up in conditions and just didn't make it back. And I think Christians around the city were reading from that, and you were a close personal friend. How long, if you think back now, 10 years, in the process, obviously the weeks roll into months. How did you find it? Because I think sometimes it helps get perspective, because we might feel just so confused and empty now, but we're not always going to feel that way. Yeah. There'll always be a hole in our hearts. Absolutely. But if you look back on just say the Barry loss, the loss of Barry in your life, how did it turn, like you say, life goes on, how did you process that over the next couple of months? Because that's going to be our journey as we come to grips with River's loss in our lives. And I think, Trev, great question again. And for me, one of the big things that there was the old cliche, and again we go back to the cliches from the beginning. Oh, time heals everything. And I really want to say this, time does not heal everything.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It makes it easier to deal with.
Correct.
When I bump into Elaine Barry's wife,
Yeah.
or we schedule something together, or I see the kids, we always have an emotional moment.
Yeah.
There's always a couple of tears,
Yeah.
and then we move past that and we carry on.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. It's to know that time doesn't heal everything. It makes it easier to deal with things.
Right. That's important, eh?
Yeah, and I think it's not to think that we're ever going to pack it away. It's not something you can put in a suitcase and put under the bed. And what helped me process it as well is just keeping it alive and keeping it real.
Right.
Keeping it grounded. It was a grounded thing. It's not a super spiritual thing. It's a loss, and it's hard, and it takes time. But also allowing ourselves to feel, but understanding that sometimes we have to just talk to somebody else. Sometimes we have to wrap up those feelings because we're in a specific situation that we're in, but still allowing ourselves to have those feelings.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt at different times. It's going to hurt when we hear a song. It's going to hurt when we go out and have a pizza, or, there's different times it's going to hurt for different people.
Yeah.
And allowing that to happen at that time, and using that time to go back to what was great about those memories. And that for me is important. And over time, processing it, there's still times. I've got a picture of Barry.
Yeah.
He sits in my office, he watches me. And that might sound crazy, but often I'll go and I'll stupidly have a chat to the picture.
Yeah.
And it's one of the pictures that I absolutely loved about him, but it's just, he's always there.
Yeah.
And just because somebody's gone doesn't mean they're not still around, because we understood their thought processes.
Yeah.
Well, we might not have understood totally, but we kind of have an idea of what somebody would say. And what helped me process is still allowing that to live on.
Yeah.
Not trying to block it off, where a lot of people would say, block it off, cut it off, it's done, it's over, we've got to move on, life carries on.
Yeah.
And the tragedy is life carries on.
Yeah.
And the beauty is life carries on. And we've got to hold the tension of the two, the tragedy and the beauty.
Sure, that's very powerful.
Holding that tension is so important.
It is.
Because life carries on, and life is beautiful, and life is great. But in this tragedy, how on earth can life carry on?
Yeah.
And the tension between the two is where the processing happens.
That's right. Yeah. That's powerful, Garth. And I think, like you say, it can catch you unawares. Like you're just listening to a song.
Yeah.
And somebody says, that was Riv's favourite song. It's not that. All of a sudden, there's just like emotion, and you feel, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Absolutely.
Garth, any last thoughts from your side? Just, we have a grieving church, and we all process in this, and it's been good. We're talking about it, we're reflecting on Riv's memory, and just the incredible impact that he's had on all of us. But yeah, any last thoughts, and just to wrap this time up?
Trev, I think, the beauty of the church that we fellowship in is the groundedness of this church. It's what attracted me to Lighthouse in the beginning. The absolute groundedness and the sense of community and the sense of love here. And I think that's so important. But also remembering that the first while, a lot of us are going to deal differently.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, life goes on a bit easier than for others. It's to remember that a year or two down the line, there's still going to be some people that are reeling.
Right.
There's still going to be some people that are suffering from the loss. And it's just to be there for one another.
That's right.
Being there for one another and asking the question, how are you actually doing? And then really listening for the answer, not just listening to hear, oh, I'm fine, but listening to the I'm fine and knowing that that's not what was meant. And just prayer is incredible. Prayer gets us through pretty much anything, but sticking together.
Yeah.
It's so important now. And Riv was one of those guys that throughout the city, there's so many touch points of people, and people that I saw at the memorial service that I didn't even know, that are mutual friends, and we didn't know. So it's recognizing those touch points moving forward, and just understanding that each person grieves differently, and each person takes a real different amount of time. Being there for one another and allowing the process to happen.
And giving people space.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. Not pressurizing, not pressurizing, but we kind of expect, but allowing people space. That's fine. Because we all process this in a different way. But God, thank you so much. And I know it's not easy things to talk about, but I was praying, I thought of you, and I know you've been through a fair amount of tragedy, and just to share that from your own experience and your own journey, because I think it's sometimes story that encourages us to go, hey, I'm feeling the same.
Absolutely.
And so for people that are listening to this and downloading this this interview, just to find perspective, because I think that's what we're trying to do. And so while we've been honest, and so on, Rivers left a massive impact, I think, on all of our lives. We saw that in the memorial service, just absolutely packed. I've never seen this church so full. And so we're trying as a church just to face this honestly and openly, and we want to honor Rivers' legacy. In fact, we want to embrace it. We want to embrace it because his life speaks to us and challenges us. So thank you for listening. We are here and we are available, and we just want to be sensitive to people, particularly those who are close to Riv, to provide every opportunity for us just to process this very tragic and incredible loss for us. And so we continue to pray, we continue to seek the Lord, we continue to be people of faith, and trust that this has been a blessing to you all.